Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, I'm Katie. I am a registered dietitian and I'm just here to have a casual Tuesday talk with y'all. This week I'm gonna go over the nutrition facts label and 3 things you need to know about it. I've noticed with my time observing the wild world of social media nutrition that people are really obsessed with the nutrition facts label, but not always for the right reasons, and I'm talking about this. Wow guys, I have been trying this whole organic granola and it's just awesome. It has 11 grams of fat, 24 grams of carbs, and 5 grams of protein, so the macros are like really good and I would definitely recommend that you give it a try. Okay, so I love the intention of people looking at the label, and it's basically the first thing that I have to convince people to start doing. Instead of being sold on a product based on the marketing on the front of the package, just looking at the amount of macronutrients, it doesn't really tell you anything. And for reference, your macronutrients are carbs, proteins, and fats. So without further ado, my 3 things that you need to know about the label, and my 2 and 3 kind of lumped together, but we're just gonna roll with it. And guys, as a dietitian, teaching someone about the nutrition facts label, the #1 most important thing, hands down, is checking the serving size, and then maybe after that checking to see how many servings are in the container. It's wrong to read just the macronutrient values without the context of like what is the serving size that's going to give me those values, you know? It's so easy, and we've all done it where we have a bag of something and we just eat and eat and eat, we get distracted, next thing we know it's halfway gone. So portion size is huge, like the #1 thing you should be looking at. And if you're brand new to figuring out what's in your foods, I'd also recommend that you track what you eat for a few days just to get a feel for what's really in the food that you're eating, like what's really in your smoothie or in a bowl of oatmeal with the portions that you usually eat. I feel like we just assume because we're eating the right things or the healthy things, I hate that word, but that we're going to reach our goals just because of that, especially with weight management. But there's some learning that has to go into it. Choosing nutrient-dense foods is only half of the picture. All right, #2 and then #3 together is now you can look at your macronutrients, but #3, you have to look at your ingredient list along with it. Starting with fat, and I'm just looping back to where I started in this video, you can't just look at the numbers and be like, nope, it has 11 grams of fat, that's too much, I can't eat it. Nope. The numbers are like when you're reading a super long text message and you have to scroll to the bottom to get the full story. It's like that in this case. You have to look at the ingredients, and that's going to tell you like where those numbers are coming from, and that gives you the full story in this scenario. So going back to my example of 11 grams of fat, I look at the ingredients and oh, look at that, in this order you have sunflower seeds, coconut flakes, canola oil, walnuts, and sesame seeds. And for your reference, ingredients are listed from greatest amount to least amount. And based on what I just read, these ingredients are contributing healthy mono and polyunsaturated fats. And these unsaturated fatty acids are what we call cardioprotective or heart healthy. All right, so now we got the bigger picture. Moving on to our carbs, the big bold section, carbohydrates. This includes all of those subsections below it, the fiber, added sugar, etc. Okay? And it's the same as the example I just gave you with fat. We have to reference the ingredient list to see what is contributing to these numbers. Mostly, it's keeping an eye on the added sugar, and the words that are ending in OSE or OS are dead giveaways, like fructose and sucrose are sweeteners. And there are heaps of other sweeteners. You can Google them, but like honey, corn syrup, invert sugar, molasses, those are all added sweeteners. For women, we want to try keeping our added sugars below 25 grams a day, and for men it's below 37 grams a day. We also want to pay attention to the amount of fiber that's listed. With the standard American diet, or a diet that's more centered around fast food and more processed food, it's lower in fiber, and we need fiber. Fiber is so important for maintaining our gut health, which is a buzzword now, but seriously, it's so important, and fiber is probably my favorite thing to talk about. And listen, I can talk about poop all day long with my patients. I have no shame. Everyone poops, and there's nothing worse than when things are not moving smooth and nice and easy, okay? And fiber is what's going to help us achieve that. And I can get way more into detail about fiber, but for the sake of this video, I'm only going to emphasize that we only get fiber from our plant foods. Animal sources of food don't have fiber in them. And the cool thing is that the more variety of plants that we're eating, the more variety of fiber that we're eating. And our gut bacteria love that. The more variety, the better. Lastly, moving on to protein, it's probably the least exciting macronutrient in my opinion. It's pretty simple. You're just going to look at it on the label and look at it, check it out. It's always nice when you look at something that has more protein in it than you were expecting, like, well, cool, would you look at that? The amount of protein you need completely depends on you, your goals, your specific needs, and I mentioned that in my last Tuesday talk video about macros, if you want to go listen to that. And it's a combination of your age, your gender, your activity level, things like that. But generally speaking, we don't have evidence that anything greater than 2 grams per kilogram is any better for you or going to get you to your goals faster. Even in the hospital, I would hardly ever give anyone over 2 grams per kilogram. It would be for very specific reasons, and I've only done it a handful of times. A good range that I like to use for an active person, and I'm only saying this because I feel like my audience asks me that a lot, like, I'm active, I want to maintain my lean muscle, what would you recommend? A good range would be between 1.5 and 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. I've also seen other dietitians on social media where they're recommending 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And if you're on a weight loss journey, the sole reason it's higher is because we're trying to maintain our lean muscle. We don't want to lose muscle mass while we're trying to lose fat mass. And I'm sorry I'm throwing out a lot of numbers and different units, but I'm going to break it down for you with some like tangible numbers. So if someone weighs 120 pounds, that's equivalent to about 55 kilograms rounding up. Using my recommendation of 1.5 to 1.8 grams per kilogram, that will give you between 83 and 99 grams of protein. Using the other recommendation of 0.8 to 1 grams per pound, that would be between 96 and 120 grams of protein. And if I were to convert it, it's 1.7 to 2.1 grams per kilogram. Well, I think it's starting to get a little bit high at that point, but again, these are just rough guidelines and estimations. Dietitians will vary a little bit, especially depending on the population that they tend to give advice for. But if you want to know more specifically what you need, working with a dietitian is your best bet. They can work with you, see where you're at, what your goals are, and what's going to work for you. So that's all for today's Tuesday talk. I hope you enjoyed it, maybe learned something, and if you have any specific topics you want me to cover in the future, please leave them in the comments below. Any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to give it a thumbs up so that I know, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out in the future. I'll see you guys next time.